Hello. Doing something new. I'm having a light, because people have been saying that there was light problems. Um, Also, forgive me, my voice is a little raw. I was at the Recall Walker rally event, 40,000 strong. And for those of my YouTube friends who are outside of Wisconsin, or outside of the country, let me tell you a little bit about Walker. He is one of these very conservative governors who were elected last year because the economy was bad. And they said that they were fiscal conservatives and that they were going to balance the budget, but they didn't say that they were going to balance the budget on the backs of the poor. And that's what they're doing. Giving huge tax breaks to the very wealthy, to the millionaires, while gutting services to the poor, while gutting education. And I do believe that there has to be a discussion with government and the teachers' unions and saying you have to pay a little bit more of your money into the pensions and health insurance. But not to break them, and to allow collective bargaining, basically for you to sit down with your employer and talk about rights. He has gutted public education, and I know there are Christians out there that think public education is of the devil, but I have to ask you, if there's no public education, are there going to be enough private schools for all the people to go to school? Or is there going to be a second class of citizens for those that can afford private school and those that can't? And he cuts and guts medical service, like people who are working for the state and I mean working, relying on Badger Care and things like that. He's trying to cut. All for huge tax breaks and huge cushy sweetheart deals with millionaires and billionaires and corporations. I mean, the Koch brothers are very dangerous. To quote Isaiah, your rulers are partners with thieves, rebels, always looking for a bribe. The cause of the widow and the fatherless never comes before them. Now, I'm an evangelical Christian. Have been for 3 years. Born again, saved September of '08. And I am sick and tired of these people claiming the mantle of Christ, all the while ignoring his teachings. And Clayfish is even worse than Walker, because Clayfish really plays the evangelical card. But she's not evangelical. She's not even a fundamentalist. She's an apostate, just like they all are. You can't be a Christian and ignore his teachings. I mean, that's like saying you're a vegetarian, but I like pork. You can't. So I went there. I actually went there to witness. I went there to show that the prophets and Jesus were for the poor, were against corruption. Yes, Jesus Christ died for sins on the cross of Calvary, but there's much more than that. Some liberals don't think he's the Son of God, but he was a great teacher. Conservatives think he was the Son of God, but not a great teacher. And so I went. There was 40,000 Recall Walker people and 40 of the pro-Walker people. And I asked them if I could pray with them and pray for them. Most of them said, no, I go to church anyway, you don't need to. I started praying with one young woman, and then actually recall organizer pulled me away because they thought I was too intense and I was scaring the pro-walker people. I mean, I want everyone to come to Christ. I want the lost lambs to come home to the glorious, the Good Shepherd. But they don't make it easy. You're supposed to love your enemies, but they don't make it easy. And so I quoted Isaiah, I think it's 1:7. I quoted Ezekiel. This was a sin of your sister Sodom. She was arrogant, overfed, and unconcerned. She didn't care for the poor or the needy. And I said this to a guy, a man, and he said, I said, don't you realize the danger you're doing, the damage to the kingdom? Don't you realize that when you fight for the powerful at the expense of the poor, that you are fulfilling an atheist stereotype? You are making more atheists. And he thought I was an atheist. And I said, no, I'm saved by the blood of the Lamb. I am born again. I almost said, are you? And so then I was doing this, and I was actually shouting. I kind of went Old Testament prophet on them. And one woman put a finger in my face and said, thou shalt not covet. Thou shalt not covet. Thou shalt not covet. Excuse me. You know what? You can take that. It's not coveting. I mean, coveting is when you see, he has a Hummer. I like that Hummer. I would love to have that Hummer. He has a Hummer. I don't like him because he has a Hummer. But when you're poor, when you're working a minimum wage job, when you're one health crisis away from losing your home, and you see these businessmen, these Wall Street tycoons, getting bailout deals, getting tax breaks, excuse me, when people are suffering, that's not envy. That's righteousness. That's not a search for, I want that. That's a search for, I want right. I want capitalism to work for everyone, not just those on the top. And so, I actually, there's a rally at the Capitol. I felt the call upon my heart to speak to the rally. To basically, to show what true Christianity is. And I was like screaming, hey, I want to talk, I want to talk. Oh, sorry. I kind of have light problems. And I actually like the Friends of the Disabled Man in Luke, who made a hole through the top of the synagogue to get their disabled friend Jesus. I felt like jumping over the barricade. But I knew if I did that, I would be kicked out and I wouldn't be allowed to join a rally. So I waited. And after the rally, there were about like 40 people left, and I spoke out. I mean, I pray for these people. I mean, there are a lot of atheists out there, and a lot of atheists on the left, because they view Christianity as a corrupt, greedy institution. And it's true Christians who have to clean up their mess. I mean, I'm not a Democrat. I hate the Democrats' policy on abortion. That's why I could never be a Democrat. I'm not a Republican either because I hate their views on everything else. I just want to quote some scripture. Because they can quote one or two scriptures out of context. Proverbs 31:8-9. Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and needy. Charity is all well and good, but we're talking about rights here. No one can serve two masters. Either will hate the one and love the other, or be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. Matthew 6:4. He who oppresses the poor to increase his wealth, and he who gives gifts to the rich, both come to poverty. Proverbs 22:16. He who gives to the poor will lack nothing, but he who closes his eyes to them receives many curses. Proverbs 28:27. People who want to get rich fall into temptation, and into many foolish and harmful desires that plunge men into ruin and destruction. For the love of money, not money, but the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. Some people, eager for money, have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. 1 Timothy 6:9. Better is a poor man whose walk is blameless than a rich man whose ways are perverse. Proverbs 29:7. The righteous care about justice for the poor, but the wicked have no such concern. I could go on all night with scriptures that point that they are wrong. But the thing is, I don't hate them. It's easy to hate them, but I don't. I love them. They are apostates. They are heretics, but I want them to come back to God's truth. So, if you're a Christian and you're staying on the sidelines, don't. Go out, speak up. Reclaim the faith. Be true evangelicals. Preach the gospel. Talk about salvation. Talk about what Jesus did on the cross. But also speak out against against the cruelty to the poor and the love and lust of riches. There's a chant. This is what democracy looks like. Well, you know what? This is what Christianity looks like. God bless.